Welcome to Learn English. Today you are about to hear an amazing story. This is not just a story about success. This is a story about struggle, hard work, and never giving up. This is the story of a young boy who had nothing. He had no money, no comfortable home, and not enough food to eat. This boy lost his mother when he was only 10 years old. He had no one to help him. He faced hunger, loneliness, and endless problems. But this boy did not accept his fate. He refused to give up. He walked for 2 years. He covered a distance of almost 300 miles. He had no money, no food, and no shelter. He faced storms, hunger, and exhaustion. But he never stopped. That boy later became the founder of the world's most famous luxury brand, Louis Vuitton. How did he do it? How did a poor, homeless boy become the creator of a billion-dollar empire? How did he turn his pain into power? How did he turn his struggles into success? Everything in this story is true. Every struggle, every success, and every detail. Watch the full story to understand this incredible journey from nothing to luxury. This story is not just inspiring, it is also a powerful way to improve your English. With interesting storytelling, useful vocabulary, and real-life lessons, you will learn naturally while enjoying an amazing journey. Now, let's begin from the very start. Chapter 1. A Difficult Beginning. In the year 1821, in a small village called Angers in eastern France, a baby boy was born into a poor family. His name was Louis Vuitton, but life did not welcome him with comfort or wealth. From the moment he was born, he was surrounded by hardship. His father, Xavier Vuitton, was a carpenter. He was a hard-working man who built furniture and small wooden structures. His mother, Coronne Gaillard, was a hat maker. She spent her days making hats for local women. They worked day and night, yet their money was barely enough to buy food. Louis grew up in a tiny wooden house with a leaking roof and cold, damp floors. Winters in Angers were very cold. Snow covered the village for months. Cold winds made life even harder. There was no heating, no warm blankets, and no comfortable bed. Louis and his family had to survive with whatever they had. At a young age, he learned that life was not fair. He did not have toys like rich children had. He did not go to school like them. Instead, he spent his childhood helping his father with carpentry work. He carried heavy wooden planks. He hammered nails. He cleaned sawdust from the floor. His hands were rough. His clothes were torn. His stomach often remained empty. But Louis was different from other children in his village. Even though he was poor, even though he had nothing, he had something that others did not have, a dream. Every day travelers passed through his village. Rich men and women dressed in fine clothes, carrying large wooden trunks and suitcases. Louis would watch them with fascination. Where were they going? How far were they traveling? Who made those beautiful trunks they carried? He had never seen the world beyond his small village, but his heart wanted to know more. He was curious, hungry for knowledge, and desperate for a better life. But fate was not kind to him. When Louis was just 10 years old, his mother fell sick. There were no hospitals in the village. There were no doctors to treat her. Day by day, her condition got worse. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, Louis's mother took her last breath. She was gone. Louis stood by her grave, silent, unable to cry. His world had fallen apart. His father, broken by sadness, became distant and cold. He no longer had the strength to take care of Louis. For the first time, Louis felt completely alone. But in that moment of pain, he made a decision. He would not stay in this village forever. He would not accept a life of poverty. He would leave. He would chase his dream. But how? At the age of 13, Louis had no money, no horse, and no food. Paris, the city of dreams, was almost 300 miles away. It was impossible. Or was it? Chapter 2. The Long Walk to Paris. One evening, as the village prepared for sleep, Louis packed a small bag. He had no map, no guide, only a dream. He did not tell his father. He did not say goodbye to anyone. Before the sun could rise, before anyone could stop him, Louis took his first step on the long road to Paris. He did not know what was ahead. He did not know how he would survive. But he knew one thing: he could not stop. He walked for hours, then days, then weeks. His feet were sore. His body was weak. Sometimes kind strangers gave him food. Other times he went to bed hungry, lying under trees, using his bag as a pillow. He crossed forests, mountains, and rivers. He worked as a farm helper in small villages, earning food in exchange for labor. Rain soaked his clothes. Winter winds burned his skin. But he never turned back. He was tired. He was starving. But he was determined. After 2 years of walking, struggling, and surviving with nothing but determination, Louis Vuitton finally arrived in Paris. He was 16 years old. Chapter 3. Arriving in the City of Dreams. But Paris was not the magical place he had imagined. The city was massive, filled with thousands of people. Carriages rushed through the streets. Markets were full of food and luxury goods. The air smelled of fresh bread, roasted coffee, and perfume. Things Louis had never experienced in his poor village. But there was also another side to Paris. The streets were dirty, packed with beggars, thieves, and struggling workers who barely made enough money to eat. The reality was harsh. Paris was not a place that welcomed the poor, and Louis had nothing. No home, no family, no money. He stood at the edge of the city, exhausted. His clothes were torn. His feet were bleeding from the long journey. His stomach was empty. But he had no food. For the first time in 2 years, fear entered his heart. Where would he sleep? How would he survive? The first night in Paris was the hardest. Louis found an empty wooden cart near a bakery. He crawled inside, pulled his small bag close to his chest, and tried to sleep. The streets were noisy. People laughed and shouted. Horses ran on the stone roads. Rats searched around for food. But Louis was too tired to care. He closed his eyes, ignoring the cold wind biting his skin. The next morning, hunger forced him to wake up early. He watched as well-dressed men and women entered bakeries, buying golden bread and buttery croissants. The smell made his stomach hurt. He had no choice. He needed work. Louis walked from shop to shop, asking for a job. But every time, the answer was the same. No experience, no work, no connections, no chance, no money, no food. Paris was cruel to those who had nothing. Days passed, and Louis grew weaker. He ate scraps from the market, picking up leftover bread from the ground when no one was looking. His body ached. His clothes were dirty. He had never felt so alone. But he refused to give up. Chapter 4. The Opportunity of a Lifetime. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Louis noticed something. A man was struggling to carry a large wooden trunk into a shop. The man was sweating. His hands were shaking from the weight. Without thinking, Louis ran forward and grabbed the other side of the trunk. The man looked at him in surprise but said nothing. Together, they lifted the trunk inside. The shop was unlike anything Louis had ever seen. Wooden trunks of all shapes and sizes lined the walls. Some were covered in leather. Others were decorated with brass locks and golden initials. It was a workshop, one of the finest in Paris. The owner of the shop, Monsieur Maréchal, watched Louis with sharp eyes. "You are strong for a boy your size," he said. "What is your name?" "Louis Vuitton, sir." "What do you want?" Louis took a deep breath. This was his chance. "I want to work." Maréchal raised an eyebrow. "Can you make trunks?" Louis hesitated. "No, sir, but I can learn." The old man laughed. "Everyone says that, but not everyone is willing to do the hard work." Louis's stomach hurt. He had come too far to be rejected again. "Give me a chance," he said, his voice firm. "I will work harder than anyone else." There was silence. Then Maréchal nodded. "Fine. You start tomorrow. But do not expect money yet. You work, you learn, and if you are good, then we will talk about payment." Louis bowed. "Thank you, sir." He had done it. He had found a place to work. But this was only the beginning. Chapter 5. Learning the Craft. The next morning, Louis arrived before sunrise. The workshop was freezing. The smell of fresh wood and glue filled the air. Tools were scattered across wooden tables. Hammers, saws, chisels, and needles for sewing leather. Louis was given simple tasks. He swept the floor. He fetched tools. He cleaned up after the workers. At first, he did not mind. He was just happy to be inside, away from the cold streets. But weeks passed, and he was still only doing basic tasks. He wanted to build. He wanted to create. One evening, after everyone had left, Louis stayed behind. He picked up a small wooden panel and began practicing. He hammered, carved, and stitched, copying the work he had seen during the day. The next morning, Maréchal noticed the piece. He lifted it, examining the clean edges and careful stitches. "Did you make this?" he asked. Louis nodded, nervous. Maréchal did not smile, but he did not scold him either. "From now on, you stay after work. I will teach you." That night, Louis worked harder than ever. He learned how to shape wood. He learned how to select the best leather. He learned how to stitch with perfection. He watched the master craftsmen, memorizing their every move. Months turned into years. He was no longer just an apprentice. He was becoming a craftsman. And people started to notice. By the time Louis was 20 years old, his hands were no longer those of a poor village boy. They were the hands of a skilled artisan. He was faster than the other workers. He was more careful in his craftsmanship. He was more creative with his designs. Rich customers began requesting him by name. "I want my trunk made by Vuitton. That boy makes the finest trunks in Paris." His reputation grew. He was no longer just a poor worker. He was someone valuable, someone important. One day, everything changed. Chapter 6. The Empress and the Opportunity. A woman entered the shop. She was elegant, wearing a beautiful silk gown and a pearl necklace. But it was her name that changed everything. She was Empress Eugénie, the wife of Napoleon III, the ruler of France. She was not just another wealthy customer. She was royalty. Her silk gown shimmered under the golden lights of the workshop. Her diamond earrings sparkled as she looked around. But when her eyes fell on Louis, She paused. "Are you the young craftsman they call Vuitton?" she asked, her voice smooth but commanding. Louis swallowed hard. He had worked for years perfecting his skills, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied, bowing slightly. She studied him for a moment, then turned to Monsieur Maréchal. "I need a trunk, but not just any trunk," she said. "I travel often, and my trunks are too heavy, too difficult to use. I want something elegant but practical, something no one has ever seen before." Louis's mind raced. This was his chance. If he impressed the Empress, his name would spread through the entire country. But if he failed, he would lose everything. Louis had seen the problems with traditional trunks. Back then, travel trunks were bulky and round-topped. They were difficult to stack. They were covered in thick leather, making them heavy and impractical. But Louis had an idea, something that had never been done before. He stepped forward, his hands slightly shaking. "Your Majesty, what if I create a trunk that is light, elegant, and stackable?" he said. "A flat-top trunk covered in waterproof canvas instead of leather. It will be strong, easy to carry, and perfect for your travels." Silence filled the room. Maréchal looked at Louis as if he had lost his mind. No one had ever dared to change the traditional design of a trunk. But Empress Eugénie tilted her head, interested. "A flat-top trunk, canvas instead of leather?" she repeated. "That is interesting. Can you do it?" Louis's heart pounded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I will create a trunk unlike any other." A small smile appeared on her lips. "Then do it, Vuitton. Impress me." Chapter 7. Creating the Revolutionary Trunk. For weeks, Louis worked day and night. He knew this was his moment to prove himself, not just to the Empress, but to the entire world. First, he designed the frame. Instead of using thick, heavy wood, he chose poplar wood, which was light but strong. Next, he replaced the traditional rounded top with a flat surface. This simple change allowed trunks to be stacked neatly, making them perfect for long journeys. But the biggest innovation was the material. Instead of using leather, Louis experimented with waterproof Trianon canvas, a light gray, strong fabric that resisted water and stains. It was unlike anything seen before. Days turned into weeks. Louis barely slept. His hands were covered in cuts. He skipped meals, too focused on making the perfect trunk. When the final piece was ready, it was breathtaking. The canvas shimmered under the light, smooth and elegant. The brass locks gleamed. The craftsmanship was perfect. It was not just a trunk, it was a masterpiece. The day of the presentation arrived. Louis stood in the grand hall of the Empress's palace, his heart pounding. Rich people and important officials whispered as they looked at him. They were not impressed by the young craftsman in simple clothes. The Empress entered, her gown flowing behind her like water. Her eyes fell on the trunk. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she reached out, running her fingers over the smooth canvas. She inspected the locks, the stitching, the finish. Everyone held their breath. Finally, she looked at Louis. "Vuitton," she said, "this is extraordinary." Whispers spread through the room. Maréchal, who had once doubted Louis, stared in shock. "From now on," the Empress continued, "you will be my personal trunk maker." It was done. Louis had won the trust of the most powerful woman in France. And in that moment, everything changed. Chapter 8. building his own empire. The Empress's support was more than just an honor. It was an opportunity. Suddenly, the elite of Paris wanted Vuitton trunks. Rich people, politicians, and wealthy travelers all placed orders. But there was a problem. Louis was still just a worker in Maréchal's shop. No matter how talented he would always be under someone else's control. He needed to break free. So, after years of loyalty, Louis made the boldest decision of his life. He left the workshop and started his own business. In 1854, at the age of 33, Louis opened his own shop. With the little money he had saved, he rented a small space at 4 Rue Neuve des Capucines in Paris. The shop was modest, with only a few tools and a single workbench. But it was his. He hung a wooden sign outside. Louis Vuitton, Maletier, trunk maker. It was official. He was no longer just a poor village boy. He was a business owner. That same year, Louis married Clémence Émilie Perriot, a young woman of 17. She believed in his dreams and supported his work. Starting a business was not easy. The first few months were difficult. Louis had no employees, no big factory, no safety net. Every trunk he made was handcrafted by him alone. He worked from sunrise to midnight, barely stopping to eat. But slowly, orders came in. His revolutionary flat-top trunks became popular. In 1858, Louis introduced his famous gray Trianon canvas trunk. It was waterproof, light, and stackable. It became an instant success. His business grew. In 1859, he opened a larger workshop in Asnières, just outside Paris. He hired workers, trained apprentices, and designed new collections. His dream was no longer just a shop. It was becoming an empire. Chapter 9: War and Rebuilding. But then disaster struck. In 1870, a massive war broke out, the Franco-Prussian War. The streets of Paris turned into battlefields. Wealthy customers fled the city. Factories shut down. Businesses collapsed. Louis's workshop was destroyed. His tools were stolen. His staff disappeared. Suddenly, no one was buying luxury goods. The orders stopped. The money stopped. He was on the edge of losing everything. For months, he fought to keep his business alive. But Louis did not give up. When the war ended, he rebuilt. In 1871, he opened a brand new shop at 1 Rue Scribe in the heart of Paris. He introduced a new line featuring beige canvas with red stripes. It became one of his signature designs. Orders flooded back in. His reputation grew stronger. By the 1880s, Louis Vuitton was one of the most respected names in luxury goods. Chapter 10: The Next Generation. Louis was getting older. He had built an incredible business, but he knew it needed to continue. His son, Georges Vuitton, had been learning the trade since childhood. He was smart, ambitious, and ready to take over. In 1880, Georges began managing the shop while Louis focused on design. Georges understood something important. The brand needed protection. As Louis Vuitton's reputation grew, copies appeared everywhere. Fake trunks flooded the market, confusing customers. In 1888, Georges created the famous Damier canvas, a checkered pattern with the words Marque L. Vuitton déposé, L. Vuitton registered trademark. But even this was copied. So in 1896, Georges designed something that would become one of the most famous patterns in the world, the LV monogram. The pattern featured the initials LV, along with flowers and geometric shapes. It was unique, beautiful, and almost impossible to copy perfectly. The monogram became Louis Vuitton's most recognizable symbol. In 1890, Georges also invented the five-tumbler lock, a security system so strong that even the famous escape artist Harry Houdini refused to try opening it. On February 27, 1892, Louis Vuitton passed away at the age of 70. He had lived an incredible life, from a homeless boy walking to Paris to the founder of one of the world's greatest luxury brands. But his legacy was just beginning. Chapter 11. Expansion and Innovation. Under Georges' leadership, Louis Vuitton continued to grow. In the early 1900s, Georges introduced new products. The steamer bag in 1901 became popular for ocean travel. In 1914, the company opened a massive flagship store on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, the largest travel goods store in the world at that time. But Georges understood that travel was changing. Automobiles were becoming popular. Airplanes were being invented. People needed different kinds of bags. So Louis Vuitton began creating new designs for modern travelers. In 1930, the company introduced the Keep-All bag, a lightweight, flexible travel bag that became incredibly popular. In 1932, they created the Noé bag, originally designed to carry champagne bottles. It became a fashion icon. In the 1930s, Georges' son, Gaston Louis Vuitton, took over the company. He continued the family tradition of innovation and quality. But then came World War II. Once again, war threatened the business. France was occupied. The luxury market collapsed. But the Vuitton family found ways to survive. After the war ended in 1945, they rebuilt once more. By the 1950s, Louis Vuitton was back on top, creating beautiful handbags and accessories for the wealthy elite. One of their most famous fans was actress Audrey Hepburn. In 1965, she asked the company to create a smaller version of the Keep-All bag for everyday use. They created the Speedy 25, a bag that became one of Louis Vuitton's most iconic products. It remains popular today. Chapter 12. The Modern Empire. By the 1970s, Louis Vuitton was no longer just a family business. Gaston Louis Vuitton's son-in-law, Henri Racamier, joined the company. He was a brilliant businessman with big ideas. He wanted to turn Louis Vuitton into a global empire. He opened stores around the world, in America, Japan, and the Middle East. He raised prices, making Louis Vuitton even more exclusive. He created luxury shopping experiences where customers felt special. His strategy worked. By the 1980s, Louis Vuitton was more popular than ever. But Racamier knew the company could be even bigger. In 1987, he made a historic decision. He merged Louis Vuitton with Moet Hennessy, a company that made luxury champagne and cognac. Together, they created LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. This was brilliant. Now Louis Vuitton was not just a fashion house. It was part of the world's biggest luxury group. But there was drama. A young businessman named Bernard Arnault saw an opportunity. He began buying shares in LVMH. By 1989, he had taken control of the entire company. Arnault pushed out Racamier and became the new leader of LVMH. Under Bernard Arnault's leadership, LVMH grew into an unstoppable force. He bought other luxury brands like Dior, Givenchy, and Fendi. He made LVMH the most powerful fashion group in the world. Today, LVMH is worth over $500 billion. Bernard Arnault himself is often ranked as one of the richest people on earth, and Louis Vuitton remains the crown jewel of his empire. Chapter 13: Fashion Revolution. In the 1990s and 2000s, Louis Vuitton transformed from a luggage brand into a complete fashion house. In 1997, they hired Marc Jacobs as creative director. He was young, talented, and full of fresh ideas. Marc Jacobs brought Louis Vuitton into high fashion. He created clothing collections that appeared on runways. He collaborated with artists like Takashi Murakami and Steven Sprouse, creating colorful modern designs. These collaborations made Louis Vuitton appeal to younger customers. After Marc Jacobs left in 2013, Nicolas Ghesquière took over as creative director for women's collections. In 2011, Kim Jones became the men's artistic director. In 2018, Louis Vuitton made history by hiring Virgil Abloh, the founder of the streetwear brand Off-White. Virgil Abloh was the first African-American artistic director of Louis Vuitton menswear. He brought street style and luxury together in an exciting new way. His collaboration with streetwear brand Supreme in 2017 became one of the most talked about fashion events in history. Sadly, Virgil Abloh passed away in 2021 from cancer. He was only 41 years old. The fashion world mourned his loss, but his impact on Louis Vuitton remains strong. Today, Pharrell Williams serves as men's creative director, continuing the brand's tradition of innovation. Chapter 14: The Brand. Today, Louis Vuitton is the most valuable luxury brand in the world. The company has over 460 stores in more than 50 countries. Their products range from handbags and luggage to clothing, shoes, jewelry, and watches. Some Louis Vuitton handbags cost thousands of dollars. Special editions made from exotic leather can cost $50,000 or even $100,000. Custom-made travel trunks can cost up to $500,000. But Louis Vuitton is not just about expensive products. It represents a lifestyle. It represents success, elegance, and exclusivity. Owning a Louis Vuitton bag means you have achieved something in life. The brand has never held sales or discounts. They destroy old inventory rather than sell it cheaply. This keeps the brand exclusive and valuable. Louis Vuitton also supports art and culture. In 2014, they opened the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris. Designed by architect Frank Gehry, it is a museum dedicated to contemporary art. The brand collaborates with famous artists, sponsors cultural events, and supports creative projects around the world. Louis Vuitton has even entered the digital world, creating virtual products and NFTs for the metaverse. They continue to innovate, just as Louis Vuitton did over 150 years ago. Chapter 15: The Legacy. From a homeless boy walking to Paris to a billion-dollar global empire, the story of Louis Vuitton is truly extraordinary. It teaches us important lessons about life and success. First, it shows us the power of determination. Louis faced incredible hardships. He could have given up many times, but he kept walking. He kept working. He kept believing in his dream. Second, it shows us the importance of quality. Louis did not just make trunks. He made the best trunks. He paid attention to every detail. He used the best materials. He never compromised on quality. This commitment to excellence made his name famous. Third, it shows us the value of innovation. Louis was always thinking of new ideas. He created the flat-top trunk when everyone else made round ones. He used canvas when everyone else used leather. He was not afraid to be different. He was not afraid to try new things. This spirit of innovation continues at Louis Vuitton today. Finally, it shows us that success takes time. Louis did not become famous overnight. He walked for 2 years to reach Paris. He worked as an apprentice for 17 years before opening his own shop. He faced wars, setbacks, and challenges, but he never gave up. His son Georges continued his work. His grandson Gaston Louis expanded the business. Each generation built upon the last, creating something bigger and better. Today, the Louis Vuitton brand is stronger than ever. When you see someone carrying a Louis Vuitton bag, remember the story behind it. Remember the homeless boy who walked 300 miles with nothing but a dream. Remember the craftsman who worked day and night to perfect his skills. Remember the entrepreneur who rebuilt his business after it was destroyed by war. Louis Vuitton proved that with hard work, determination, and creativity, anything is possible. His legacy continues to inspire millions of people around the world. Conclusion. So, dear learners, this is the incredible story of Louis Vuitton, from poverty to luxury, from nothing to everything, from a small village to the entire world. This story reminds us that our beginnings do not determine our endings. It does not matter where you come from. It does not matter how difficult your life is right now. What matters is your dream. What matters is your determination. What matters is your willingness to work hard and never give up. Louis Vuitton walked for 2 years to reach his dream. What are you willing to do to reach yours? Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and share it with your friends. Leave a comment below and tell us, what is your dream? What are you working toward? Do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that help you learn English. Remember, every day is a chance to improve your English and move closer to your goals. Keep learning, keep practicing, and never give up on your dreams. See you in the next video. Goodbye.